In today's video, I'm going to show you how to take 50k to over 150k in just 10 short years, and that is without adding any extra money. So when we're looking at investing, we often look at different vehicles such as gold, ISAs, etc. And they're great investment opportunities, by the way. I love investing in both, and I do have significant investment, but nothing beats bricks and mortar, boring, vanilla buy-to-lets. And just to give you the short version, even if you said 7% per annum in ISAs or gold, which, by the way, doesn't really happen, but let's say 7%, you would still end up the 10 years on just £98,000 rather than what we were going to get over 150, and the fact that everything can be impacted by a news article. So let me show you how the numbers work and how we get from that 50k to over 150 in 10 short years. Here's one I made earlier. So let's take a very typical property here. Now, this is not accurate pricing. The point of this is to show you how it works in a very real situation through growth. So we're going to say a purchase price of 120k. If you are watching this from London, you're like, I can't buy a shed in London for 120k. I get that, but I don't live in central London. I live in West and South Yorkshire, specifically Leeds, which, in my opinion, is one of the best investment areas in the UK, and this is a very typical property. So we're going to spruce this up with 10 grand. Again, I know if you're from London, you get charged that for a new staircase, but 10k is a nice little tart up on a property that's going to do it up. And then you've got fees and taxes, so lawyer fees, broker fees, whatever sourcing fees, and of course stamp duty as well. So we're all in for that magical £50,000. The bank is out now. We've run out of money. What's it going to do for us? So naturally, by adding in some money, we're going to end up adding some value. And in year one, we're going to assume that not massive amounts of value by the end of the year, but we put in 120 purchase, we put 10 grand in, so 130k. We've probably got an end value of 140k by the end of year one. So we're just about squaring it off, not including the rent, which I'll go through in a moment. So we've got 140k property, and we've got 50k in equity in the property. We've got to the end of year one now, and we've got a property worth 140k, as we said. We've also got 1,500 net cash in. Now, that's not to say that's what the rent is, but by the time you've got the rent, you want to take off the mortgage, maintenance, management. The easiest way to think about it is take 75% off the top. I know that sounds like crazy amounts, but it just covers your butt, and if it comes up better, amazing. So at the end of the year, we've got £1,500 in our pockets ready to go. So total equity 50k, total cash 1,500, 51,500. Let's go to the end of year two. So what we've done with this is we have assumed a 5% capital growth. Now, just so you know, the average in the UK is 7.9%. In our areas that we target for our investors, we're actually closer to almost double digits on an annual basis. But even then, we still assume 5% capital growth to be conservative over the long term. What we've also done on the net rent is assumed 5% growth. Just so you know, on rentals is typically between 3 and 8%, dependent on the area. Again, in our areas, we've actually experienced a 13% increase on an annual basis over the last few years. But again, better to be conservative over the long term. And I'm going to say this once, growth or rental increase isn't guaranteed every single year, but when you're investing in property, you're looking at decades, not just 1 year at a time. And if it doesn't average over 5% a year on both rent and capital growth, you picked a property in the wrong area. With total equity from year one, the 50 grand, plus the 7 grand, 5% growth, we've got 57,000. And the rental income from year one and now the end of year two, 3,075. So that's 60,075 in total. Let's speed this up a bit. End of year three, we're starting again with 5% growth on the rent and the capital growth. We're up to £154,350 in value, 1,654 net, giving us a total equity of 64,350. Total rent in, net rent, 4,729, just shy of 70 grand at 69,079 pounds. You can see it's starting to really compound now. And when we look at growth doesn't happen in a linear fashion. It doesn't go completely straight. What you'll notice with these numbers is they're compounding. So what it looks like on a graph is it starts to go like this. So as we go through this now, you're really going to start seeing the acceleration of figures. So end of year 4, we're now at 162 grand. 1,700 plus net rent. That's £72,068 net equity so far. 6,465 net rent. That's 78,533. That's in just 4 years from a 50,000 investment. We're already 28k in. Year 5 getting faster still. 170k value. 1,800 net rent. That's net equity now of £80,171. Net rental income of 8,288, which brings us to 88,459 in total. So now's where it gets to the really interesting part. And I actually remember this with my first ever property doing this, and it took me hours to really work out how I'm actually going to get the money out. And this is through something called a refinance. Now, when the equity is at a certain point in your property, you can get a new mortgage. What a mortgage is debt going on your property. So when you hear refinance or remortgage, that is doing it again. But at this stage, there's a new valuation on the property, and that pays off the old debt, gives you a new debt, and then hopefully that new debt is large enough that it puts money in your bank. And considering there's 80k equity, this is what it looked like. Just before I show you that refinance, here's what it would look like end of year 6. And this is when we really accelerate the journey. So end of year 6, 178k value now. Bear in mind, it was 140 at the beginning after adding that extra value. 1,900 income net. That year, 88k total equity, 10k total income, 98,882. So we've now got net all in 98,882. So by the end of year 6, we've already doubled our investment, but it gets better. We're now going to refinance this property, and we're refinancing at the 178k. Now, when you're looking at how much money you're going to have to get left over, you want to work off of the new debt portion. And most people do it the other way around, and they get it wrong. And it's very easy to do it wrong. So you get the new debt. So on 178k property, we're going to get 75% debt. Now that's going to come to roughly 133,500. Top of my head, so I might be wrong there. More importantly, what we're going to have is 44,500 equity left in the property, but we also want to take some money out. Well, if we've got 133,500, then how is it we're getting 43,500 back? Well, if you remember back to when we purchased the property 6 years ago, or hopefully about 6 minutes ago for you, 6 years ago, 6 minutes ago, we bought it 120k. Well, if we bought the 120k property, we put 90,000 of mortgage money in there. Now, when you're buying a buy-to-let property, it's important to remember that it's interest only. So even in 30 years' time, if I never refinanced it, I still owe that 90,000. So I've got 75% of the 178k. Which is the 133,500. We're going to minus off the 90k, which leaves us with 43,500 in equity that we're now going to transition out and take as cash. Now, the eagle-eyed of you might go, yeah, but there's some cost to that. Yes, there is. But again, for the simplicity of the video, we've got that. Plus, we've got our net rent. And if you remember that, it was £10,203 added to our taken out cash pot. We've now got £53,703. Guess what we can do with that? We're buying our second property. What we've done with this refinance is we just bought another property in those 30 seconds. That's right. End of year 6, we've got our purchase number 2. Now, this one we're purchasing as a bit more money. Let's say the property price have obviously gone up over that time, as we know, but we still want to get a great deal for us and our investors. Well, we've got 155k. Deposit 38,750, all in, plus the fees, plus the refurbishment, we're at 53,750 and a valuation of 170k. So yes, we put a refurbishment in, but actually we're probably about break even on this right now, maybe even a bit behind because we've not added too much value. So we're valued at 170k, cash in at 53,750, and our equity, not taking account of a couple of fees, is at 53,750. So when we put these together and get to the end of year 7, what does this look like? So in a shorthand this right now. So year 7, we've got the purchase 1 and the purchase 2. We've got 178k value and 178,500 value, 2 grand and 2 grand income, equity of 53k and 62k, and your additional or combined rents of 5,905. Again, that's taking account of now the end of year 6 and year 7, 121,589. But by the way, I know this is a huge amount of numbers, and this is why people get so confused, but I want to actually show you how it looks to break down compounding. Now, before I go even more complex and how it really accelerates right now, you might be watching this thinking, I actually want to benefit from this compounding. And the only way you can do that is by buying property investments in the right place, because believe it or not, you can get it wrong. It's not as simple as buy property and wait. You have to buy them in the right locations. And if you don't have a clue where to start and you want somebody else to do this for you, that's where we come in. If you've got 50k or more to invest, put APG in the comments. That's APG, Aspire Property Group. You can have a one-to-one consultation with one of my team and see if we can help you build your portfolio this year. So as I said, our whole business is helping other investors like you build their portfolios hands-free and making sure they're getting it right. APG in the comments. Let's jump straight in and see what happens in the next 3 years. Year 8 starts to get fun here. We've got 196k property now, almost 197, 2k income, 187k property, another 2 grand income, total equity adding up of 62 and the 71, 133,000 and 10,000 rent roll. That's net income there, giving us a grand total of 144 grand. And that's in just 8 years of investing 50k, and it gets even better. End of year 9, we've got 206 grand property and 196 grand property, 2,200 and 2,200 income from there, net income again, which gives us total equity of 72 and the 80 of 153,200 and 14k net income. Again, that is the last couple of years adding on, bringing us to 14,526, and all in, we now have total equity and cash available of £167,737. So let's do the final year, and then I'll talk about some of the intricacies and how you can make this happen. Instead of watching YouTube videos, why don't you look at your bank account? End of year 10, here we go. We got a 217k property, a 206k property, 2,300 and 2,300. That is a total equity of 83 plus the 90, which gives us 173,393. Cash over the last few years adds up to 19,163, which gives us an all-in total of 192,000. So if we go all the way to the top of this board from where we began with that 50,000, and we've managed to go from the £50,000 all the way up to £192,000 in just 10 years. And of course, there's some nuances of this. Not every year are you guaranteed to get 5% growth. It goes up and down in time. There are some fees applicable as we go along. And whilst the past doesn't guarantee the future, we've got 1,000 years of evidence in the UK property market of this happening. And the way compounding works is that it doesn't go in that big linear line that we all want in our property businesses, or actually you don't really want it. You want this big compound effect to go up. And this is where most people in property get it wrong. They do quick turnaround properties here, making these small amounts of profits and paying tax on it every single time. Whereas what we do at Aspire is we buy property and we hold it for the long term and get full advantage of this growth tax free. And if you're one of those people, just like me a few years back with 50k in your bank account, and you want to absolutely maximize that by as much as you can. Now, can I quadruple, as we just did with that example, in your money? Yes, very realistically. However, our big commitment is to 3x that investment over the next 10 years. And we've done it again and again and again with our investors and our own properties as well. And so if you want to invest in the same locations as me, not down the road, the same roads, the same properties, then put APG in the comments. I'd love to help you build your portfolio this year and beyond, and you can have a free one-to-one consultation session with me or one of my team, and we can talk about how we can make this dream your reality. Hopefully you got massive value. You have no idea how long this video took going back and forward, but genuinely, I hope you got massive value from this. This is the sort of video I get requested all the time, and it takes so long to put it together, so I hope the impact is there. If you're new to the channel and you did feel that impact, make sure to hit subscribe and the notification bell. And if you do want to give me and the team a little bit of love, just destroy that like button, and I'll see you in the next video.